朋友们，22号，华为带来了划时代的重磅产品，一款折叠屏的鸿蒙电脑，非常的炫酷，以新系统加新形态的双重突破，为用户带来鸿蒙办公新的体验。首款鸿蒙折叠电脑华为 MateBook Pro 非凡大师，以18英寸全球最大的折叠屏，重塑了电脑形态，以极致的轻薄和智慧交互，刷新了高端轻薄本标杆，而两者共同勾勒出鸿蒙电脑生态的未来图景。这是科技领域的标志性事件，代表华为的终端国产化最后一块拼图完成了，智能终端全面开启鸿蒙时代。至此呢，华为产品的软硬件都掌握在自己的手里。放眼全球市场，相关统计数据显示，4月份在全球桌面操作系统领域 ，Windows 操作系统市场份额是 71.06%， 而 macOS 占比 12.25%。依托中国超大规模市场的优势和中国制造的雄厚实力，鸿蒙电脑未来会成为全球操作系统的第3级。我们从用别人的系统到造自己的系统，中国首次在个人电脑领域实现了全站可控。鸿蒙电脑的诞生呢，将为产业发展提供全新的土壤，也必将带动国产芯片、软件、硬件的协同崛起，为全球消费电子市场不断升级和发展注入新的活力。而这一款折叠电脑具体的技术细节呢，我也不在这赘述了，我们来看一看上手的视频，让大家感受一下科技的震撼。
我真的感觉我在拿一本华为的书，然后打开其实是一个电脑。3指是多，5指是一个全屏，8指是一个键盘直接出。我现在手里拿的就是 MateBook Fold 啊，这个非凡大师首款折叠电脑，展开看一下。这个是一个18寸的屏幕啊，是一个3:4的一个比例。然后如果是折叠的情况下，这边是一个3:2的比例，下面也是一个3:2的比例。然后有人就会问，那键盘怎么办呢？就这样，4个手指头一滑，这个就弹出来了。而且它有很多这个主题，我刚刚看了。我喜欢这个很好看哎。然后我觉得触感应该也是可以声音与震动，它震动的话也是有按键音，然后也都是可以设置的音效。只不过现在这边可能会有点吵，稍微听不到它的这个键盘音效。我说真的啊，是有触感反馈的，但我觉得可以稍微再做的稍微大一点，因为这个屏幕大嘛，比如说有时候你要剪片子呀，或者是看图啊、做 PPT， 屏幕大非常方便的情况下，它有一个一体式的一个支架，直接把它展开。我们就直接先放这儿吧。然后它这边还会有一个星闪链接的这种键盘，然后我们也是可以打的然后它是可以磁吸的。首先呢，它是不好意思啊，我指甲差点，到时候赔不起。我知道，我是说，比如说第一个情况就是你磁吸，你比较喜欢这种的物理的按键，你可以磁吸这样用。
我们这1-2年不断的听到华为的各种突破，突然间你会发现，以前那个经常占据媒体头条的红苹果去哪里了呢？想象一下，如果今天是苹果率先推出折叠屏电脑，那将造成全球多么大的舆论轰动呢？整个中国舆论场上也会铺天盖地数不清的跪舔账号，大力的去吹捧苹果。那不用想，我就知道他们会说什么，王者归来嘛。他们会说姜还是老的辣，千万不要小瞧苹果，他们最近没有创新产品，只是因为能躺着挣钱，干嘛要站着挣呢？而一旦他们认真起来，造出的产品谁都比不上，华为那也要靠边站的。只是很可惜你爱苹果如初恋，苹果待你如草芥，用着老旧的技术，卖着高昂的价格，不割果粉韭菜，那还割谁呢？指望沾着大肠杆菌的咖喱苹果还能在市场上重振雄风，那是痴人说梦。这次新品发布实现了折叠硬件和鸿蒙系统软件的双突破。华为创始人任正非曾经多次表示，封闭起来就要落后，华为要向美国学习开放性、包容性。华为全生态的自研自产，虽然带着一丝无奈，但也彰显了中国企业从硬件到软件全链条自主可控的努力。我们回头望中国高端电子产品出海，华为手机曾经是标志性的产品，凭借着自研的麒麟芯片，率先推出 5G 的商用手机，以及跟沃达丰、德国电信等等的欧洲顶级电信运营商的合作。 华为当初是迅速打开了欧洲、亚太、中东等市场的大门。在2019年，华为手机全球出货量达到了2.4亿台，市场份额接近18%，位居全球第2，海外的市场占比近40%。可是之后呢，美国政府在芯片制造卡脖子的同时，开始禁止谷歌向华为新设备授权服务。软件被卡脖子之后，华为手机海外市场几乎一下子归零。鸿蒙 之批是应运而生，也是破釜沉舟。鸿蒙系统在2021年全面推向华为智能手机、平板电脑和智能手表等等产品，而个人计算机上的鸿蒙却是迟迟未归。据悉呢，华为自从2021年开始部署整个鸿蒙电脑的原型机，历经了工程机，然后再到商业商用机，一共花了5年的时间，投入上万名研发人员，布局了2700多个专利。美国商务部近日呢推定违反美国出口管制为由，企图在全球禁用中国先进计算芯片，包括特定的华为升腾芯片。而微软呢对华为的 Windows 操作系统供货许可证也到期，华为 PC 将无法继续使用 Windows 系统。从眼下的局势来看，华为终端国产化的最后一块拼图完成，那更像是中国企业去卡脖子风险的宣示。华为的终端国产化之路，也是一条中国产业升级之路。今年1季度，华为手机已经以19.4%的市场份额重回中国智能手机销量的首位。新能源汽车、无人机、人工智能、国产大飞机等等，事实证明中国产业升级之路虽然艰辛，但是也成为了推动中国经济转型升级、提升国际竞争力的关键引擎。节目最后我们来看看外国的网红大 V 是怎么评价华为鸿蒙电脑的。
Oh boy, remember a few years ago when we were gonna teach the China man a thing or two, right? The China man got uppity. We said that their society had progressed far enough. Therefore, we were telling them you shouldn't go any further because we feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? We blocked them from using our smartphone processors. We're currently trying to block them from using our AI chips. And for Huawei back in 2019, we said you're not going to be able to use the Google Android OS for your smartphones. Google may have just killed Huawei's bid to become the world's top smartphone brand, and that was back in 2019. To quote the wisdom of that bygone time, for millions of users outside of China, being cut off from Google's apps and services, quote, kills the attractiveness of Huawei phones, said IDC analyst Brian Ma. Quote, it kills the usability of a Huawei phone outside of China, thus rendering them dead in the water, he said. China man goes too far. China man gets uppity. We smack them down and say, you can't use our technology anymore. And so how's that going for us? Well, Huawei is looking to surpass the billion user mark with its Harmony OS next operating system, as it can no longer use Microsoft Windows. So basically, now a few years later, they're coming on almost 1 billion users of their own Harmony operating system, and they're about to lose access to the Windows operating system. So now, not only are they going to use their own operating system on smartphones, on smart TVs, on watches, and the whole 9 yards, but they're also going to be deploying it to good old-fashioned computers. And just between you and me, don't let Orange Man know that I said this, but I gotta say, if you haven't taken a look at the Harmony OS, it doesn't look to be a bad operating system. So somebody deployed some piece of crap a decade ago. It's a pain in the ass to manage. It's a pain in the ass to administer. Everybody hates it. But it's one of those things, you keep using it Because you have been using it for 10 years. Again, why is your company still using Windows and Microsoft? Probably because they've always been using Windows and Microsoft. Why are they using, Gmail or something like that? Probably because they've been using it for 10 or 15 years. Once you get locked into these ecosystems, you're stuck in those ecosystems for a long time. So what becomes interesting here, when you look at the Chinese market truly diverging from the American market in the technology world, one of the curious questions that's going to come up is, what is their architecture going to look like? What are their systems going to look like? What does it do to our technology industry if the overall technology world literally fractures and some of the world is using architectures and systems that look nothing like what we're using? Again, one of the nice things, becoming an MCSE, a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, back in 2000, is that everybody used Microsoft equipment back then, right? It was basically you used Intel servers and desktop computers with Windows on them. You had Windows servers, and then you had Cisco equipment, right? So basically you get your A+, you get your MCSE, and you get your CCNA, and you could work anywhere, right? You could work in a hospital, you could work in a military establishment, you could work in a logistics system, you could work for an interior design firm. Everybody used the same crap. Again, one of the curious things in 2025 is, there's so many tech stacks nowadays. There's just so many tech stacks nowadays. And that's actually a problem, like figuring out what product you're going to deploy, or what product you're going to support, or what you're going to learn in order to support or deploy becomes a really big issue nowadays. And what becomes interesting now is what happens on a global scale if geographically we start separating the types of architectures that we use. Again, when I got my MCSE in the West Coast, generally folks used Novell back in 2000, and on the East Coast used Microsoft. Novell died a couple years later. Again, Microsoft was good, but that was the thing. So if you were in California, you might want to learn Novell. Again, if you were in New York, you learn Microsoft. Later, when you look at Ruby on Rails or PHP, for whatever reason, East Coast loved PHP. If you were east of the Mississippi, PHP was the technology to learn. If you're west of the Mississippi, Ruby on Rails was the technology to learn. They basically did the same crap, just a little bit differently. And that was it. It was just a geographic thing. What becomes curious now is what happens when we have this on a global scale, right? If you are west of Hawaii, you learn Harmony OS, and if you're east of Hawaii, you learn Ubuntu, or something like that. Again, that's one of the curious things to be thinking about when we start thinking about this divergence of operating systems at the nation-state level. So let's take a look at this article. Huawei's software ambitions are rapidly expanding. Their software ambitions are expanding. What began as a survival strategy in response to U.S. sanctions has evolved into a bold initiative to position Harmony OS as a dominant operating system across smartphones, tablets, TVs, and soon PCs. Again, this is what I talk about when we talk about racism. One, don't be a racist. But two, if you're gonna be a racist, be an effective racist, for Christ's sakes, right? And that's one of the issues we have with America dealing with China. We keep telling them, boy, you better stop. And then they don't stop. Because they don't really like how we're dealing with them, right? And that's one of the issues that we're getting to with them. Again, we stopped them from using the smartphone processors, Huawei from using the smartphone processors. Now they have their own smartphone processors. We're trying to stop them from using AI processors. They're building their own AI processors. We try to stop them from using an operating system. They build their own damn operating system. It's kind of funny, you know, a nation with 1.2 billion people that is the factory of the world and has amazing universities and motivated and dedicated and smart people. It's surprising that when we tell them to stop, that they don't just say, yeah, yes, Mazda, yes, Mazda. They're like, nah, we're just gonna keep going, right? Now aiming to surpass 1 billion users, Harmony OS is preparing for a new era of computing after Huawei lost access to Microsoft Windows licenses. So basically with the Harmony OS, they're on version 4 at this point, and so they have about 1 billion users, and this is across their tablets, their phones, and their TVs at this point in time. So basically what's going to happen is they're going to lose access to the Microsoft Windows licenses, and so a funny thing's going to happen. They're going to stop paying us for valuable technology, and then they're just going to start using their own, and then B, start selling their own. So we are no longer going to make money by selling them the technology, and then they are going to start competing with us. Let's be honest, most likely out-competing us, and so our businesses are going to lose even more money because they're not going to be able to compete. I feel like I feel like the Chinese are reading like The Art of War, and we're reading Baybar. I don't know what's going on here.